Hi, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to the first town hall of the new year. Um, just going to kind of do kind of a brief overview of the entire platform today. Um, Open it up for some general questions and kind of do a little bit of a year in review thing for you guys while we're still waiting for our first quarter 1 update to come out, which we should be able to review with you on our next webinar. Pat, do you want to walk them through more specifically what we're going to look at today, or do you want to wait a couple extra minutes for more people to join?
I think we'll get started and talk through everything. So we're going to look to kind of do a year in review of 2022. What I like to do is just walk through all of the major updates that we had and things that we added, and then of course if there's any questions surrounding any of that. I know for the past few webinars that we've been we've been going over a lot of the features, but it's always good to kind of get a snapshot of what we did in the last 12 months. And then we're going to shift and look towards, what we hope to accomplish this year, what we're planning, what we have identified as, definites that are going to happen, and then some things that we're going to hope to see if we can squeeze in over the next 12 months. So that's what we're going to be going through today. So our first update of 2022 2.12.1, we added in LDAP as well as Palo Alto integration. So from the LDAP standpoint, that's getting into an alternative method of authenticating into the platform through the login screen, and of course it can be set up and configured through settings, through users, and you can edit the LDAP settings here where you can authenticate in, add users, and determine who gets access to what with those different levels, with those different versions. So you can set that up in here. One other small thing that we added, of course, was the ability to add in a login banner, login message, and you can do that through this users settings area as well. So that was really the first thing that we covered in 2.12.1, which I think was February or March of last year. Next update that we had, 2.13.1, 2.13.2, we added in those changes to the compliance tab of the platform, where we made sure we added in all of the assessment objectives for both NIST and for CMMC 2.0. So it was really the CMMC 2.0 update. When the assessment guide came out for CMMC, we of course had the assessment guide from NIST with 171A. So we added that in, and we also added in the ability to convert from the other frameworks, the older frameworks that we had in here, through this little convert SSP button here, where we can choose the existing SSP that you like to copy from, and then you can determine what you want to copy to from the framework. Of course, there's only those two right now. So one of the things we're actually, not to jump ahead, but one of the things we're going to look to add in 2023 is some more framework options. Now, something that came up recently for a couple users that hadn't been utilizing this new compliance tab, they might have used the old compliance tab. For some of you users that have been with us for a while, we had that older policy builder that was accessible through a different port. It was accessible through port 5001. Some users had used that, hadn't used it in a while, gone to the compliance area where they saw, hey, where's my SSP that I was working on? if that's you, if you are one of those users, the good news is that we just basically stopped or rather turned off the port and turned off accessibility to that area in the tool. And that part of the tool is no longer there, but we stored and we kept all that information. So for certain users who, it's a very niche use case, that data is still in there. We are able to set up a remote support session, get access to that data, and then basically copy it into here and then convert it into the new SSP. So a little bit of a tangent, but for those of you that have been with us for quite a while, remember the old tool, some of that data can still be in there to be accessed. But that's really what we accomplished on that 2.13 update. One of the biggest things that we added was 2.14, and we're obviously still on 2.14, but we had a lot of things change with the fabric of the tool, with the new hosts tab, renaming essentially the agent manager tab, including it under the hosts tab. Same thing from the inventory standpoint. We used to have that inventory tab on the side. We were utilizing OCS inventory, which is an open source application, which was fully removed from the tool, and it's no longer supported because we shifted all of the same data, the same views, and actually we're able to get more data from the use of our new agents, pulling that inventory in at a frequency of every 10 minutes, as opposed to the OCS inventory that we used to have, which was once a day. So that got included. We also had the network monitor tab that was removed and then included in the hosts tab, as well as kind of cross-pollination of data from the vulnerability scanner in that new vulnerabilities tab, which also includes the unknown hosts area, as well as, because we're shifting the vulnerability scan data from the vulnerability scanner into an index, we of course have the vulnerability dashboard now that can be viewed and analyzed much like other data in the tool. And we also added in the insight flyout for each individual host. So as opposed to going to the dashboard view, seeing all hosts, you can look at the individual data for that singular host in the hosts tab. So that's a lot of functionality that we did add or replaced and improved upon with this new hosts tab. I know we've gone over this quite a bit. I think I actually, of course, reviewed this when it first came out in July of 2022, and we have been, going over this continuously for the past few webinars, because it is a lot of functionality. It's a bit of a change to the workflow of utilizing the tool. So we've been continuously revisiting it in these webinars. So don't want to beat a dead horse. Don't want to go over this too much, because we've been doing so successfully. But just wanted to highlight just how much we added, how far we've come. We still have a long way to go. Of course, there's still some bugs, there's still some things, there's still some issues, of course, as with any software. But we continuously strive to communicate with their clients and have these webinars. That was something new that we added in 2022, was these webinars. We kind of resuscitated these from the COVID era. We're doing these webinars now. Something we covered on the last webinar was Nick going and having quarterly check-ins with everybody. Something that we're looking to do just to kind of get the communication up, make sure that nothing slips through the cracks. Obviously, we have our great support team who is always available to, pick up the phone or receive an email and reply. But of course, it's always great to be proactive and try to identify issues before they become, more critical or end up, causing you to, not be able to scan or lose data or something drastic. So it's super important, and why we have these webinars, why we have those check-ins from Nick and our team. And something as well that we added in, of course, was this flyout here up in the top right, the dock site, which I just need to refresh my certificate actually for that. But we have that in there, and then we also have the compliance guide located in that flyout as well. So that's something that that recently got added a couple updates ago. So continuous improvement. Of course, if there's any questions or comments of anything that you'd like me to just redress and talk about right here, I absolutely can. I know I addressed this on a previous webinar, but something that still comes up is just questions about log retention and those settings, which of course can be configured in the settings and backups area, where you can designate the how many days of live logs, how many days of cold archive storage that you wish to maintain. And then of course with the archive, by default it is local. You can push it off via Samba to an external storage. So those are configured in here. If you want to get an idea of how your system is doing or what level of log retention it can maintain, the best way to do that is to view your NeQter health dashboard. It's just called health. It can be accessible through the home page there, or of course accessible through the dashboard viewer, where you can better understand what you have for free and use disk space and a percentage. So you can analyze over time the level of retention that you are using. So I've been steadily maintaining 45%. If I were to increase any of those day counts, so of course it would go up. So that is something to keep an eye on. So that's everything that we were able to cover in 2022. Really a large chunk in 2.14, and we've had subsequent 2.14.1, 2.14.2 come out, and as well as 2.14.3, which is what we're currently on, and that's actually going to shortly change. We're going to be having a new version coming out. We've been working on this for quite a while. I know I've mentioned on it on these webinars for quite a bit. So that kind of leads me into what we're going to be looking at when it comes to 2023. So I kind of cheated a little bit. I took some of this from our newsletter that came out. Actually, I think it was sent out today. That's another thing we can chalk up for 2022. We introduced the quarterly newsletter. Again, just looking to increase communication and just so you guys are in the know of what's coming out, what you can expect and all that good stuff. So for 2023, we're really going to be looking at launching NeQter Labs 3.0. I remember when we were on 2.0, that was a big shift, a few years ago at this point. Time flies, it's kind of crazy in that sense. But for 3.0, what we've been heavily working on is the underlying Ubuntu OS that NeQter itself is built on top of. We're still on and currently utilizing Ubuntu 18.04 LTS, which is going into extended support in April of this year. So we were looking to get ahead of that and jump up to not only 20, but we're actually moving through 20 all the way to 22, Ubuntu 22 LTS. So of course, moving those version upgrades is a lot, making sure that everything is compatible, moving everything up, making sure that there's going to be no snags on that new version of Ubuntu. So we've been working on that quite a bit. Something that has cropped up in the last 12 months or so, we've gotten continuous support tickets upon the vulnerability scanner, which has some underlying issues with it. It's an older version. We are fully revamping and updating that vulnerability scanner. with that next update, which is coming out in the coming month or so, which is going to basically a lot of the things that were happening with reports, a lot of things that were happening with target and scans and those types of things, and also of course with authenticated scans, maybe not looking and finding everything without some additional tweaking, all of that fully getting blown away and revamped and fixed. So we have a new standard. We have a new foundation with that new vulnerability scanner that's coming out. And then, of course, we do have a new hardware platform. We are shifting from Supermicro to Asus. We've been testing that quite a bit. Of course, anyone who's dealt with hardware, I'm sure everyone on this call knows just how intricate the issues can be, and firmware versions and packages and all that stuff. And I can assure you our devs have been stressing through that. It's been quite a journey getting to that new hardware platform, but safe to say we're there. We're on the new hardware. We've worked out all the kinks, and we'll be able to provide that for anyone who wishes to refresh their hardware. And of course, new customers are going to be on that new Asus. One of the things that we're coming out with updated agents. We're going to be supporting additional Linux distros. We're mostly targeting Red Hat and CentOS with those agent updates. Those are going to be following the newest update, which is going to be the OS and everything I just mentioned. We're also going to make sure that we have enhanced Mac support with those agents and support. One of the things that we've targeted and have gotten requested on quite a bit is EDR vendor support. So, the past 5 years or so, and I'm sure you all have been dealing with it as well, as identifying what is the best EDR to use, what's the best one for my business, which price point can I afford, what do I want to include from a functionality, and also is it compliant with NIST and CMMC. So a couple outliers have been CrowdStrike and SentinelOne. So those are the two that we're going to target to start. We may look to target some additional ones this year. However, it has not fallen on the agenda, hasn't gotten on the board yet. So we may have some other ones, maybe Sophos, maybe some other ones, but we haven't identified those yet. The two we have identified are these two right here, CrowdStrike and SentinelOne. From the hosts tab, that was a huge watershed moment with 2.14. We're going to continuously enhance that, add new ways to view and sort data. We're going to add some cross-pollination, cross correlation with the data to get some better views, better reports, which actually leads into the next area. The added reporting system that we're going to look to add. So this was something that cropped up recently, actually, as a byproduct of developing the new vulnerability scanner, and supporting that was something that we found is going to be a little bit easy for us to add. So it's going to be a quick win for us as a new reporting system that we're going to be fleshing out. We're going to be building in a foundation, and we're going to be building in templated reports for that. But we're also going to look to make it flexible, modular, and customizable, so that you can generate really nice formatted PDF reports, have them be exportable, have them be automated to be sent. Much, big improvement upon some of the reports that we already have in there. This is going to just bring it to a whole new level. So that is something that we are looking to add. And something I didn't put on here, which we are going to revisit this year, is enhancing our alerting capabilities, and that just revamping the alerting area. The time has come for that. So I'm going to look to answer some questions on just so you guys don't feel ignored here. Yes, yeah, we'll look to get you subscribed to the newsletter. Um, let's just see here. So yeah, so those two questions that we have, one is about FIPS encryption, and the other is about the SOC. So one of the things that we do have on the newer hardware is we do have previously we did have a TPM module on the hardware. The TPM module for encryption of data at rest was not on the FIPS list, even though it used FIPS validated cryptography. The new TPM module that we have is currently FIPS 140-2. And one of the things that we're going to look to do, we need to iron out how this is going to shape up. But we are going to look to point to FIPS validated modules from a software standpoint. If for some reason log data is considered a CUI or needs to be protected to the same level of CUI, we are going to look to point towards FIPS validated modules so that we can support that. That will come with a subscription to Ubuntu's licensing. So we'll just need to figure out how we can get whoever wants that can get that. So we just need to iron that out, but that is something that we are going to look to support. And the new hardware that we have, as well as the new software with Ubuntu 22. Ubuntu 22 isn't currently on the FIPS 140-2 list. We imagine they're going to go FIPS 140-3. So we're going to be in the know when you are, when they look to go through that process, and we'll look to figure that out. So when that is supported, we will look to tie that in and support it, which leads to the last area, SOC as a service, a security operations center. So yes, absolutely. We are going to have US persons on that SOC by default. We are currently utilizing, or rather, we're going through the process of piloting with a SOC vendor right now. They themselves have actually gone through DIBCAC with their clients. They themselves have gone through a DIBCAC assessment and passed. And they also are most recently have been declared a C3PIO and are an AOSG. So we are, very good friends actually, and good partners with this partner that's going to provide the SOC as a service. We're piloting that. They're going to be US persons on the SOC. All the data is going to be housed within Microsoft GCC High Azure Gov. So that's going to be the default, especially with all of our NIST and CMMC clients. We will look to offer, and we're going to be piloting with other SOC vendors, some of whom do have, foreign-based SOC. So if we do have some commercial clients who don't need to adhere to the ITAR requirements or a lot of the stringent requirements of CUI data, we will look to have that, which, as you can imagine, it will be a little bit cheaper for an offshore SOC, but our default offering is going to be a US-based SOC, and they're privy to all of the underlying requirements, and themselves are going to be CMMC compliant. So that's what we're in the midst of piloting right now. Hopefully next webinar or the following webinar, we're going to be able to announce formally that partnership and and launch that service and get you details on pricing if you would like to expand and add that as an add-on to your current NeQter subscription. We're going to look to make it seamless so the data just gets piped right from your license to their SOC, and so on and so forth. So those are the biggest things that we're, so I know that is a lot. Hopefully, because actually I went through the process of reviewing, wow, we did a lot last year. Some things, some more things I wish we had done, but we did cover quite a bit in 2022, and we're going to look to do the same and then some in 2023. So hopefully this was a good rundown of everything that we have been doing and hope to do. And yeah, any questions or anything that you would like me to go over on the tool set, or things that you'd like me to address from a company standpoint, we're all ears. That's what these webinars are for. Nick, anything that you think would be worthwhile to cover?
Um, just some things that I've seen come up from talking with some of the clients. Might be worthwhile to do some reviews on different ways to send and configure reports and alerts from the vulnerability scanner. I know we did that
Mm-hmm.
a couple webinars ago, but that's been one of the most common things I've seen coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And while we're on the subject, Kevin actually just shot a question in asking
Mm-hmm.
if we could um, review the Linux agent again and the new distributions of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so on the Linux side, we're going to look to support Red Hat, and we're going to look to support CentOS to start, because mostly the support has been for Debian-based operating systems, so most notably Ubuntu. But we're going to look to shift and make sure we support RHEL as well as CentOS. So let's see here on yeah. So when it comes to the report side of things, and I'll look to pull this up.
Yeah, I think we should
So
probably walk through it on the platform.
yeah, so there's a couple things to touch upon. So of course, from a base alerting standpoint, you're going to be able to configure alerts in this events tab here. So they're going to be summarized in this default view. If you want to configure alerts, we're going to go events alerts, and you can edit and determine who is going to receive the alert as it gets triggered here. So the best method is going to be selecting a user, because what that's going to do is that's going to pull the email address associated with that user upon either that local user or especially LDAP, and will send to that destination. If there is an account, or if there's an email outside of a user that you would want to send to, maybe you have just an alias, you can select email as the destination type. You can add that and then hit save and receive those alerts. One thing that I would like to see us change, because it is a little confusing, is configuring over here the monitors that you have set up. So monitors, or the network monitor, used to be its own dedicated host, its own dedicated tab. It's now located under hosts. You can add a monitor only host. You just add new host, and you can specify the interface as well as the address. You can go to hosts, edit them. Actually, let me just quickly go and show you what I'm talking about. Um, let's see. So we'll go to hosts. So you can add a host right here, and it's already going to be added here. It's going to designate as manually added, and you can go down to the bottom. It's going to have a default address it's going to throw in there, but you can edit that. You can rename the interface. You can add the IP. The interface address can be IPv4, or it can be a domain name. So if we wanted to add NeQterLabs.com as a domain, we can, and we can update that. And then you can add a monitor at the bottom here. So you can do ICMP. It's optional. It's just going to override if there is a port in here. It's just going to use ICMP. If you use TCP, you can designate which port. You can select the interval, and you can select right here to send an alert if there's a change in availability for this monitor. So I went and I basically added a dummy host. If there is a host that's already in here, say you have a server, let's say you have a desktop or what have you, you can go through the same process. You can hit edit, you can go and add a monitor, and it's going to allow you to select which interface, or you can add a new interface if you wanted to. So if you have an internal web server, you can add a new interface that is just the domain, and you can add in that domain as a value for it to check availability against. So I can select there, I want to be alerted on that, but to see which alerts that you have on from a monitoring standpoint, you're going to go to events and you're going to click on monitors. And from here, you can turn on or off which monitors you wish to receive an alert on. And then you can select here which destinations that you want or users that you want to receive these emailed alerts based upon change in availability of monitors. Another thing that you can set up to receive emailed reports on is going to be in settings and is going to be reports. Now, I can imagine we still need to workshop and go through where we're going to have the reports that I mentioned for 2023. I imagine it's going to be configured in the same area here. These reports are just summary reports of what is happening on the platform that you can receive or print off of here. And you can elect to add email addresses that you wish to receive for the reports that are in here. You can set it to be daily, weekly, or monthly. So that is those reports that you can externally push and pull from the tool. Lastly, a question around the vulnerability scanner and receiving those reports or those alerts is going to be either you can do it one of two ways. You can go up to the top here, hit configurations, and hit and create an alert, which is going to shoot you an email with the designated report. So you can make a common one. If you wanted to, you could just make it right here, and you can say, I wish to receive a report. I can attach a report here. So I think this is kind of where the question lies. You can click attach report, and I recommend right now with the current version of the vulnerability scanner, attach report PDF. You can also include the report in the message field of the email, but I just recommend attaching the report. You can select the to address, the from address, the subject, which is going to be auto-populated, but you could just make it a static value. And right here, by default, it's going to be checked as always. So you can select always. You can select I wish to receive, or what areas in the report do I want to include. Again, it's just going to include everything unless you specify otherwise. And you can select the method as email. And then you'll select attach report PDF. If you change it other from always, you could make it if the severity changed or if the severity is at least 0.1, which means there's no log, it's above a log level. So maybe if it's only log level stuff, you don't want to receive a report, but I would just check always. I would leave these. I would put the to address, who you want to receive it, and then attach the report as a PDF. So you can configure it here, but this is going to be a default prompt. If you make a new task, it's going to be the second one down. It's going to be under alerts. So if you make it in configuration, you can select it from the drop down here, or if there's already been an alert that's configured for another scan, or you can make a new template, a new setting by clicking the page there. And this is the same screen that we just went through. So those are the main ways as of right now that you can receive reports and alerts emailed from the NeQter platform. You're gonna, of course, just gonna want to check if you haven't already, under settings, under mail, You can designate the from address and the subject prefix for all of your emails. You can send a test email, and then you can also sync it up to your SMTP mail relay server and authenticate. So a couple other questions that we have here. One thing that I figured out that I was confused on, it appears that the disk utilization is reporting on the utilization of the Samba drive information. I don't believe, and that is something I can check absolutely on disk utilization on the Samba. I don't believe that. I think when it comes to the the NeQter host here, this is reporting on the onboard disk drives. I don't believe it provides an indication of the capacity or the utilization of the Samba, of the SMB that you're using. So yeah, I don't believe that this is in any way tied to SMB. I can be wrong on that. So if you are pushing the archive to via Samba to that external, I don't think that that would be tying into here. I believe this is just the onboard storage that this is reporting. I can double check on that. And then there was a question, a report drill down is confusing for me with the detection host correlation. So the best way to cross correlate a host is going to be well, it really depends on what you're looking at. So when it comes to any of the the NeQter related information, if there's a host that receives or has an agent that is going to receive continuous and constant IP updates for that host. And then when you open up a host, you're going to be able to see traffic to and from the host for the IPs associated with this asset against whatever firewall that you have, pushing into the platform. These traffic logs are going to have that filtered IP information down here. If it's relational to the vulnerability scanner, the vulnerability dashboard is going to be based upon IPs and hosts as identified by the vulnerability scanner. As of right now, there is not, and that's something that we're going to look to achieve for 2023, is a better cross correlation between, say, firewall data, Active Directory, and in the vulnerability scanner, because obviously, an IP is not a source of truth as identifying a host or having an identifier. So it is, in terms of correlating an event to a host, right now it's going to be localized to whichever vendor is reporting that information. So you can identify the host by looking at the Active Directory dashboard or the subsequent firewall dashboard, say like Fortinet, and it will identify that host and the host name and the IP. Or you can look in this hosts area here where it will identify if the host has an agent, it will identify that host, its host name, all of the hardware and inventory information, software information, as well as its IP. One thing that we are going to change, of course, is we're going to have a better identification method for the unknown hosts. So it's not just purely IP, it's going to be IP paired with something else like MAC or potentially an identifier that NeQter Labs comes up with. So I don't know if that answers your question. If there's something more specifically that we could help you with, I would recommend that that you reach out to Nick or reach out to myself, and we can have a dialogue about it, just so we better understand your question. But hopefully, those couple things that I just covered, answers your question. Nick, anything else you think would be worth covering?
Nothing in particular comes to mind. I don't
Oh,
know.
there's one more question here.
Yep.
Um, um, to get email alerts if hosts are not reachable, they go offline or when they go back online. So you can, so it depends on the host. Um, the agents tab is going to let you know if there is a, which hosts are online, which hosts have not been seen in 24 hours, and which hosts have not been seen in 7 days. As of right now, there's not an alert correlated to those two fields. That is something that we're going to look to add. Of course, if you do have a monitor for a particular host, as we went over with the monitors. Those are based upon availability. So if you punch in say like a UPS or a networking equipment or a switch or something like that, and you establish monitors for those, and they go down, you will receive an email alert immediately as that host is determined to be unreachable, and you will again receive an email when it comes back up. If it's related to agents, there is not currently an alert template associated with the availability of receiving information from the agents, but you can receive a host status indicator from this graph right here on this page. And last question here. I assume the compliance module will continue to be updated as well. Final rule might tweak requirements. Again, while the fabled final rule or the proposed rule or whatever rule it turns to be, or CMMC 3.0 or NIST, 800-172, if they come out with an assessment guide for that, or if they come out with the assessment guide for the new level 3 of CMMC 2.0, formerly levels 4 and 5 of 1.0. If there's any of those changes and then some, the compliance module will get updates to it. If there is a major change to the framework, like we've seen in past, like for example, between 1.0 and 2.0, because there's changes to the underlying framework and how the data is stored, sometimes that necessitates a new framework gets added, which we will support through the use of this conversion mechanism, the convert, an SSP. If for some reason there's massive changes or in the structure of the data it's changed, we need to convert it. So we'll add those changes in here. If there's something like a family added or a control added or details or descriptions of a control gets changed, we don't need to do any conversion. That will just show up in here as an update. So like say there's a new family added, it will show up here. If there's a new control or a description changed or any of the underlying documentation that's just a line change, just a text changed, that will get updated in here. We'll look to cover that on a webinar. It might show lack of progress or it hasn't been completed because something new has been added. So those are easy. We will, as those changes get added, we will continuously update the compliance tool. If it's a major shift, major change, we'll add in a new quote unquote framework and add the ability to convert from one to the other. And we will be looking this year to add additional frameworks to this tool outside of NIST 800-171 and CMMC. We haven't pinpointed the frameworks exactly, but we are looking at ISO 27000, potentially HIPAA, PCI, etc. And we might even look to There's been some rumblings. We might even look to add, 853 and have the ability for tailoring. So those are some things we're going to look to add. But yeah, any changes to the frameworks as they stand now will get included in any subsequent updates. And yeah, not holding my breath for any updates out of DoD about CMMC, or else I might pass out. So, but yeah, so I think that's everything that's worth covering. Of course, these webinars do get recorded and they get uploaded to our YouTube channel, which they actually added handles to YouTube recently. So you can find us at youtube.com/@NeQter_Labs. And that's available on our website and available on our webinars and any email that we send out. So, please go and subscribe there, just so if we add any other videos, or of course add these webinars, you'll get notified of that. So yeah, I think that is anything else, Nick, you think?
No, I think we've pretty much covered, between this webinar and the last few webinars, pretty much every key element of the platform, while throwing in some nuances and some subtle things that some people might not have noticed. Unless anybody has any further questions about our roadmap for the rest of this year, or I know Pat, you mentioned we'll be adding some new frameworks. I know Kevin commented with a framework he would like to see. So if anyone has some specific frameworks they would like to see, either email us or post it in the chat or pose it as a question now. But we can probably wrap things up here.
Yeah, and by the next webinar, even if it is still in testing, I will look to showcase the newer update, because Nick and I we're running out of ideas of stuff to cover. We might start playing kazoos next time. So we're pushing our developers to quicken the pace a bit, but we will be in testing by at a minimum by the next time the next webinar rolls around. So I'll be able to showcase the newer version. So pretty exciting stuff there. So yeah, look to wrap this one up.
Yeah, I think so. Well, thanks for joining us again, everybody, and we will see you all again
Happy
next
New
month.
Year. I forgot to say that at the top of the call. Happy New Year. I hope everyone had a safe and wonderful holiday season. But now we're back in it. We're back in the thick of it. So hopefully 2023 is going to be good to us, and we'll look to talk to everyone again at latest the next webinar, and maybe sometime in between. So thank you everyone again, and thanks Nick, and we'll look to wrap this one up.
All right. Have a great rest of the week, everybody. See you next month.